go deeper than the logo. Like, what is your brand story? What do you stand for? Who do you want to be known as in your market? And then how do you continue that? We naturally have that fear of missing out. So we want to say that you're our company. I mean, look at some of these athletic wear companies, right? Their clothes aren't even that great, but people just want to be able to say that that's what I wear.
You don't want to be half-assed, right? Or just
No.
half-baked.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
No.
yeah. Hello, friends. I'm Adam Loveridge. Welcome to the Home Services Marketing Podcast, Growth to Acquisition. I'm the owner and founder of Jobcalls. We're a home services marketing agency specializing in heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and remodeling contractors. For more information about Jobcalls, visit us online at www.jobcalls.com. Hello and welcome to the Home Services Marketing Growth to Acquisition podcast. My name is Adam Loveridge with Jobcalls, and I'm really excited today because I am being joined here today by Crystal Williams with Lemon Seed Marketing. And the thing that really brings us together, I think, as marketing companies is that we really focus our energy on the heating and air conditioning space, and that's really what Crystal specializes in as well. So, Crystal, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Oh, absolutely. I'm excited. I always love to talk marketing, so I'm always here for the conversation.
Me too. In fact, that's what I think I love most about being an agency owner is I get to talk to people every day, prospects, clients, whatever about marketing, and really about growth. And I think that's gets me excited and still gets me excited.
Yeah.
So after, 14 years now in this, there's nothing better than still just being able to show up excited for work, I think.
Yes, yes.
For our listeners, give me, if you would, a little bit of your background in the
Yeah.
HVAC space and the marketing space, because I know you've tell me a little bit about where you're coming from.
Yeah, so my family owns and operates a heating and air conditioning and now plumbing business here in rural East Texas. We've been in business a little over 50 years now. And so I, was not going to work there when I got old enough. I was like, I refuse to work in this industry. So I went to college, got my degree in communications and marketing, and then ended up working for a local Coca-Cola bottling plant here in our town and was doing a lot of their pricing and got a lot of exposure to marketing for large brands like Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, Monster Energy drinks, and things like that. Well, then my brother calls me in 2014. So my grandfather started the business when he retired from the Navy. And then my dad bought it from my grandpa, and then my brother bought it from my dad in 2014 ish. That's close to the right year. And so he called me and said, hey, I really want to take our branding to the next level. I need somebody to come in and manage all of our vendor partners for the marketing, help us retain employees, help us get out into the community more. Would you consider doing that? So I was like, sounded like a great job. So I jumped right on that, started doing that, did that till about 2019. And then my brother said, I think contractors all over the place would need the support that you provide to McWilliams, which is my family's company. I think they would need that support as well. So he kicked me out of the nest and said, let's go start something new. I had a great friend of mine that was a fantastic graphic designer. She was already doing a lot of the graphic design for my family's company. So she and I partnered together and started Lemon Seed Marketing. And we've been doing this together for a little over 5 years now.
That's fantastic. And as an agency, what do you really, it sounds like, branding is kind of your main key then, or are there other services that you also offer?
Yeah, so we basically are like a full-time marketing department, basically. So we come in and help you develop a full strategy, a marketing strategy complete with from your brand to digital to how you're reaching new customers. We conceptualize the whole plan for you. And then we do your graphic design, making sure that you're staying on brand. And we also can do your social media for you. And we develop your ideal avatar. So it's really, we are your one-stop shop to create and curate a full marketing plan, and then we help you organize your vendors. So we're not a digital agency. We can work with any of your digital agencies. We just want to be the one that helps you communicate better to your vendor partners and keep your marketing rolling, keep it going, and have a strategy.
I love that. So that means that you get to act as the go-between between companies like mine that are real heavy in the, SEO ads, that kind of space, and then interpret that over to the the actual client.
Yes.
And making sure that we're staying on point and on brand really is
Well, and
the key.
sometimes we don't, sometimes contractors don't tell their digital companies what else they're doing. And so our marketing works so much better when we can get everybody on the same page. And, we're experts at it. We work really hard at that organization and that continuation of your brand across all platforms. And so that's what we're really good at.
Talk to me about the types of clients that you work with. Are you working with everybody from one man in a van kind of thing to,
Hmm.
or what is your sweet spot?
Personally, if you're ready to spend marketing dollars, like true marketing dollars. So I always like to say, when you're ready to spend about $100,000 a year in marketing, that's really when we need to start talking. And the main reason is it's really not the best use of your advertising dollars to afford Lemon Seed if you're spending less than that. What I'd rather do is just give you a free consultation, help you get organized with what you're doing that's less than $100,000. And then once you hit that, we'd love to come on board and help you actually facilitate more of those services. But odds are, when your budget's smaller than that, you're not really doing enough to need a full support system. So we're here to help everyone,
Sure.
whether it's through advice or through a true ongoing struggle. I think our sweet spot is when clients are getting to about 2.5 to 3 million, and they're really like, because they've gotten a good taste of success, and
Right.
so now they're ready to hit the gas. And so that, and then we always love to work with people that are ready to refresh their brand. So they know they need to do something with their logo and truck wraps, and they need to freshen it up. We're a full branding agency, so we can help you get a full new brand. But we go deeper than the logo. Like, what is your brand story? What do you stand for? Who do you want to be known as in
Mm.
your market? And then how do you continue that?
We work a lot with a lot of smaller contractors, and I think you're exactly right. In as far as before they're spending $8,000 to $10,000 a month in advertising, the biggest thing that they're important, or the biggest thing that matters to them, is leads. Right? It's just
Hmm.
we need enough leads to
Right.
keep the trucks on the road at that level too. I mean, they're maybe two, three, four trucks. You can't stay there indefinitely, and then I think too, there becomes this point where you have to get away from. I follow Dan Antonelli quite a bit, who's also in the branding space with KickCharge, is their
Hmm.
their company. Anyway, he coined the term the white van syndrome. When they're starting out, they do have that white van syndrome, or really kind of just a brand, right? It's because they're out there moving
Yeah.
and shaking and trying to do business and just keep the lights on. But at some point, you have to step back and say, how is our brand really being viewed in the marketplace? And one thing that I know for sure, as an SEO guy for the last couple decades, is that those trucks on the road and different branding activities that you can do in terms of advertising, whether that's billboards or radio or TV or CTV or whatever else, one way or another, is all going to drive back to the brand of the business, and that's held largely on Google and different things along these lines. But the more a brand is established, the easier it is for us to do what it is that we're trying to do. Because it just generates more impressions overall, people are looking for that brand more often. And I guess maybe my follow up question to that is, if you're at that place where you've maybe got your logo on the side of your white truck, but you're really not fully wrapping those vehicles, or you're at that space where you maybe are looking at doing a brand refresh. What are some of the key things that you really need to be looking at when you're considering updating your brand to really be more competitive in the market space?
The biggest thing that we want is some type of differentiator. So if you look around and you're saturated with mascots, I don't think you need to do a mascot, right?
Mm,
If you look around and there's all these wild colors, I don't think you have to do a wild color. Honestly, what we're looking for is, I think we're looking for authenticity. So a brand off of a shelf, right, that some company creates, like, this would be a great brand. Those to me are super hard to deal with when it comes to the continuation of them. Meaning, when you get a new brand and it looks good, but you can't actually speak to why you chose a parrot, or why
mm.
you are a mascot person with a dog. Like, is there a story? When you start actually trying to implement that brand and execute that, and then have continuation of that, because it's not authentic to you, it's really hard to like make yourself care about those things. One of the most important
So
pieces
it's
is,
got to be personal, in other words.
yeah, really making this a personal thing. And it doesn't have to be around you specifically, but the overall feel that you want for the company, I think, is very important. And it really will help. Again, this will differentiate you a lot of times just by cleaning things up. Meaning, if you're driving around vans that have magnets on the side, just full wraps of vans, a lot of times will change that up. But more than that is even in the editorial style. So how do you speak? Are you calling it a tune-up, or is it a checkup? Is it a the doctor is in type thing? So it's even the way that you word your ads, the way that you write on social media, the way your emails are written, what your CSRs say when they answer the phone. All of that makes up your true brand presence. And the customer journey when they're trying to do work with you. And so, just authenticity will help you stand out. Also, full commitment, meaning trying not to the best you can, not limp out your brand, meaning like, don't just be like, okay, I'm going to put one new truck on the road. And then, so I would do as much as I could, wrap as many vehicles as I can, changing the uniforms for our team and changing out the signage on my building, my header and my profile picture for social media, my graphics on my website. I would do as much as I could to where it looks like overnight you became this new, fresh, engaged company. That's a little scary for people, and it
Sure.
can be a little cost prohibitive, but at least create a plan of action, a timeline of when you can get things done. And so being aggressive with that and tenacious with it, I think is definitely a better strategy than, hey, I've got this brand. Every day, no lie, or almost every day, we get a message from someone that has rebranded through whomever, and they're like, but I
Hmm.
never launched it. I never did it. And you're like, I mean, it's like hurtful. I'm like, oh my gosh, what opportunities are you missing out on by not utilizing it? But they just don't know how to put it into action. And that's what we're here for a lot of times, is just helping contractors know, man, just start doing stuff. Just literally start. You're probably just like you're frozen with fear. So you don't want to be in that place.
You're talking about obviously a pretty substantial financial investment to, obviously develop the brand, then go out and rewrap the trucks, update the signs on the building, update all the uniforms. What do you typically see there in terms of, if let's say I've got 13 trucks on the road, we're doing, I don't know, $4 or $5 million a year in revenue. What does it typically take financially to rebrand a company of that magnitude?
Like for lemon seed specifically, when we have our rebrand packages pricing doesn't change depending on how big your company is,
Sure.
because I know the work that our team is going to take. So that price is pretty straightforward, and it's pretty in line with others. So I
Okay.
would tell you you're looking, somewhere in the $15,000 range for us to design all of these things. Our packages do include vehicle wrap designs and a lot more than we've seen from other branding agencies. But the real investment to me comes from wrapping those vans. So if you've got 13 vans, I would tell you that you're probably looking at $4,000 about ish to wrap a
Per
van. It
van.
just depends on, yeah, and it just depends on where you are in the country. Also,
Sure.
like if you're going to wrap 10 vans, I probably would try to make a deal with with someone. But
Right.
honestly, that's why it behooves contractors that are at a smaller revenue point to really lock in their brand so that as
Right.
they grow, you don't have that massive cost. And I say massive because, 13 trucks, and rewrapping all of them in all new uniforms, I would say that
You're going
I
to be
would,
pushing 100 grand or close to it by the time
yeah,
you're all said
yeah,
and
and
done.
that's if you
Yeah.
do everything. Yeah. So right now, what we do with clients is I will look and say, let's make a schedule here. So what of your
Mhm.
vehicles are actually going to be out of commission in the next year or two anyway? They're already about to be retired. I don't know that I would rewrap those,
Right.
right? And then which ones should we rewrap versus can we just start wrapping everything moving forward? So I had a client yesterday, and he was like, I'm getting ready to buy 3 vans. I've been waiting to rebrand, so I need to consider rebranding now so I can wrap
Hmm.
these old 2 or 3 that I have and the new 2 or 3 coming in. And so there is some strategy there as to when and what schedule you do those things in. You can develop an easy way to go about it, just being intentional. Like this month, we're going to do this next month, we're going to do this. I would say van wraps, we tell everybody if you can wrap 2 or 3 vehicles for the launch of your new brand and get new uniforms for your team, that's a good start. It's a really good start, because then
Gotcha.
people will be like, "Oh my gosh!" Now, if you're changing your name, that's a different struggle.
Hmm.
If you're changing the name of your company, that's going to be a different struggle. But we have a whole nother checklist of things that we need to go over to change your name. So again, this is why it behooves those that are at a smaller place in business, revenue wise, to make sure their brand is solid now before they hit those successful, super successful, I should say, you know, EBITDA numbers and all of that, where just depends on where you're trying to position yourself. But you get to $10
True.
million and the game changes, right? Definitely the investment changes.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I interviewed a fellow on this pod a few months back, anyway, here in Utah, that I know went through a pretty significant rebrand as well, and they had about 13 trucks on the road, and they did a name change too, from the owner's last name
Mm.
to a different name altogether, that really encapsulated, who they want to be, right? This rare breed in this particular case, anyway. Looking at what had to happen on the search side of it, and with Google and everything else, you go from having this one name over here to now all of a sudden calling yourself something completely different. And when you're looking for this, people are still looking for your old brand. And so for the longest time, they had this. It was the name of the new brand and what they previously were on their Google business profile and different things along those lines. And I imagine there's a lot of little things that you've got to really, a lot of strategy, frankly, that has to go into launching a completely new brand where you are changing the name of the business.
Yeah, it can get tricky on that. Again, this is a mindset,
Hmm.
right? So I think contractors really have to get themselves in the right state of mind. So again, I'm going to go back to the contractor that I talked to yesterday. He's been in business since 1997. And he's like, I wish I would have done this back in 1997, but I didn't. And now I'm
Right.
committed to getting us to the next level. I say this a lot: what got you here won't get you there. So a lot of times you just really get to the maximum growth that you can hit. And you've got to really make some risky decisions to kind of get over that hump, to move on and really grow. And so I encourage you to not be afraid of those things. It's just a matter of getting your mindset right, your expectations ready, fiscally getting prepared to really make some major moves. And there are those humps in business. So, to me, getting to 1 million is a big hump. Getting to 3, getting to 5, getting to 10, getting to
Right.
20. And so normally when you hit those big mile markers there, it requires some aggressive, fearless things to get over that. Or you'll see, I mean, if you really were honest with yourself as contractors, you'll see people that are stuck at one of those levels, and it's because they won't push to the next level.
I've definitely seen that a lot, and we've never really focused on the branding side of it. Over time just become aware of frankly how important it is, because I think you do hit this point where if you don't have a solid brand, I think you spend a lot more money in advertising, frankly, to
Oh
generate the
yeah.
same quality of leads, because you're not getting as much of that repeatable business, frankly. And I have a client
Yeah.
called North Star that did this right from the get go. And started out with they were wrapping their trucks, 12, 13 years ago, when that was just not as big of a thing. And it's been interesting to kind of see how, working with them compares to working with somebody it does have maybe just their logo slapped on the side of their truck, or their vans or whatever else, or like you said, the magnets. And it's so much easier to market a significant brand. And that kind of brings me to another question. Do you work in plumbing as well, or
I
or
do.
just on the? You do. Okay. So
We
you
work
kind of.
with HVAC, electrical, plumbers, and even roofers now.
Roofers. Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
you really can't work with a plumbing company without, doing HVAC or electrical or vice versa. And that's something we learned as well too. We set out to just work with HVAC companies, and then, it ended up picking up a lot of MEP contractors just in general, right? The
Yep.
mechanical, electrical, plumbing, because they've got those service lines. But coming kind of back to all of this, I think what I heard you say was that there starts to be this almost inflection point where we've grown as far as we can grow with the brand as it is, and we're kind of hit this cap, so to speak. And it sounds like when that happens, that's really a great opportunity to really rethink the brand, reposition the brand. What have you seen in terms of, and I know this is hard to track, ROI is really kind of where I'm getting at,
Hmm.
right? But what type of success do companies have when they make that leap and they reinvest in their brand, and do all of that hard heavy lifting of rewrapping all the trucks? What
Yeah.
do they see happen?
So overall, I can tell you what people see happen is every other marketing form that they've done or that they are currently executing starts to perform better, which you mentioned earlier.
Right.
So, again, ROI is all relative. Like people will be like, I had 100% ROI. Well, you were only doing $200,000. So that wasn't
Hmm.
super hard to get, right? So you have to
Sure.
take all of those performance metrics, there's a full story there to consider. But at the end of the day, where your ROI is going to come from is that your paid services, your direct mail, your PPC, your SEO, your direct search, your social media, all of those things should grow in recognition because you've launched a more memorable brand. People want to do business with people that they like, they understand, they know, and also that look cool. Like, let's call it what it is.
Right.
Like, when you look like you're something impressive and all of those things, we naturally have that fear of missing out. So we want to say that you're our company. I mean, look at some of these athletic wear companies, right? Their clothes aren't even that great, but people just want to be able to say that that's what I wear. And so that's
Right.
the same thing here. Like when you're looking at things, we want more organic searching, meaning we want to have done such a good job with our name, our colors, wrapping, and putting ourselves in front of our target market so much that when people have an issue in their home, they don't think, let me go search randomly into Google who AC repair near
Right.
me. I want them searching for me
Right.
directly because they're just looking for my phone number or they're looking for my website to do an online booking. That is where you start measuring success. So I would get a baseline of where I was before my brand. And then once you launch
Hmm.
that new brand, literally month over month, it should be getting better and better and better. But it's not a magic wand. A new band wrap is not a magic pill of some sort. It
Right.
still requires you cultivating that brand consistently and making sure. I mean, we have we have our own client that we rebranded, and they just did branding with us. They didn't come on board for like ongoing services. And so we
Hmm.
just went to check on them a couple of months later. They hadn't updated their website, their social media was still not updated.
Oh,
And I was like, what happened is they just lost their mojo. So you're not going to have a great ROI because you didn't go execute. You didn't go implement it anywhere. So it can't sit in a
right.
shelf on a shelf and grow. So I would say your ROI, though, literally, one of our clients in Hobstob, Indiana, he didn't fully rebrand his name. He kept his name. We added a mascot, and he just trusted the process. Man, he is growing like gangbusters. Yes, a lot of it is because of our brand, but I'm going to be honest, brands don't build businesses, operators build businesses. We're here to make
Sure.
it better. We're here to make it look good. We want you, it does make things perform better, but really you, the operator, is what's going to move the needle.
You talk about taking a baseline, right? One of the things that we're always
Hmm.
looking at inside of Google Search Console is how much brand traffic companies are getting month over month, right? Meaning how many people are actually going out to Google and typing in name of the brand, right? And in all
Hmm.
reality, unless you're paying for, paid traffic and things along those lines, but even then that's not going to come over into the Search Console world per se. But that brand traffic for good, healthy companies that have a solid brand and are doing really well in their marketplace far outweighs any of that AC repair near me traffic. That's why I've become a real big proponent of branding and think that it's really a great way to go, especially if you can get somebody to start out with that, like you said, the vans that look cool, right? That are going to be memorable because you're sending these trucks out into the neighborhoods, and when people see them, they're going to remember you. What I'm curious about would be, if you guys have ever tracked that trackable brand lift, if at least if you will, on Google. And I realize Google's not the end all be all of the marketing ecosphere, but I would be really interested in some data analysis around what happened to our brand traffic. All things being equal, when we were here, we rebranded 6 months later, year later, 18 months later. And I'm wondering, do you have any concept or idea of how that brand sort of systematically improves over time?
Well, one of the things that we're actively doing right now, so we really just now, we feel like it's really hard to measure success of that in like 6 months. We really like to
Sure.
see some year over year, like some continuity there. And so we are
Hmm.
actively working right now on 4 or 5 case studies where we are starting at the beginning and we are working through because we know there has been success. We know there's been revenue success. We know there's been employee retention success, brand recognition success, just from our other pieces. But now we are doing these in depth case studies where we go all the way back to the beginning and we are looking at where were you back in this time on the digital side. So,
Mm.
a lot of times we're seeing 300% lift just in name recognition and name searches, but we really wanted to put some solid numbers to those things. And so
Yeah,
we are actively working on that now that Lemon Seed, because we really just started fully rebranding companies in the last year and a half. So really we're trying to build all of that up now because we know what we see and how can we put true data to it. And it has been an exhilarating experience because our contractors are like, man, this brand has really taken us to the next level. And people measure success differently.
sure.
But for the most part, right now, we are definitely seeing just a growth in the organic search. And so I can't wait to release all those case studies on our website in the next couple of months.
I'm excited about that too. I'm a
I'm gonna
I'm
be
a
like,
data
share with
person, so I'd
Adam.
love to check that out.
Share with Adam first. I'll put that.
Share with Adam first. Yeah, let Adam go geek out on your data. Well, but just to be real about it, I mean, my clients, many of them need this, and we're obviously going out and growing them with SEO and growing them with ads and helping them really improve their word of mouth game in a lot of cases as well. What on the smaller end, we've worked with some very very large companies, although we've gotten away from working with private equity. We were working with some really, really big companies that owned, multiple like 18 brands, that sort of thing. And just decided that we're not quite enterprise enough. I still like working with I like working with the smaller handful of trucks
Yep.
to 15, 20 truck type
Yep.
operations. And we've worked with the 100 plus, 200 plus truck operations in the past. And it doesn't feel the same to me. It's just not the
No, no, there's something about those contractors that are still very much down in the weeds. And Lemon Seed is the same way. Like I love those ones that are just gritty and they're risky. I love those. And we love to help brand those companies and give them an identity. A lot of times people will say, I've never felt so organized with who I am as a company. Well, by the
Mm,
time they're done with their rebranding process. And so, we were talking to each other the other day. It's really building legacies, so we
mm,
can start now and like I can pinpoint like this guy's going somewhere or this lady's got it going on with what she's doing with this company. And a lot of times it's because we just see the tenacity of it. And we know the importance. And I know like I take it very seriously. Like you're looking to invest, close to $100,000 when it's all said and done of vehicle wraps and uniforms and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like it is an investment and we have a lot of time invested in it because we know the importance of having a fully fleshed out plan. And we're not just going to deliver you a logo about best of luck. We develop a launch
right.
plan, social media graphics, everything you would need to launch it because we're so passionate to help contractors do it right.
What is that? Can you give me an idea of what that process looks like? Meaning, if we're going to go rebrand somebody, what are the key things that are going to help that rebrand be successful in terms of the steps? Whereas obviously, if I take this whole thing, I stick it on a shelf, and spend a lot of money with you guys to feel good about my new logo. That's obviously at the extreme end and I doubt that a lot of people do that, and I can see that happening. But for the companies that rebrand and are successfully rebranding, what are some of the key milestones, if you will, in that, or the key things that they really need to do to ensure that they're getting the maximum benefit and value out of that rebranding process in the first place?
The first thing that you don't do is enlist the help of a committee.
Mm,
Because the best ideas are killed in committee. So if I have a contractor's like, hey, me and these five people are going to choose my new brand, we will never get it launched because the idea of getting five people to agree to the same new look that's out of the box and freshened up, that's never going to happen. So what I encourage you to do is pick one trusted advisor, your business coach, your
mm,
actual life partner or your business partner, and you two sit down and you join every meeting that we do. You work through everything so that everybody hears the same pitch and spiel and story marketing, storyboarding it for you, so that when y'all are making decisions offline without Lemon Seed in the picture there, y'all are talking the same language. When you start trying to involve more people than that, and you start saying, hey, what does everybody think? The concept that everybody's going to come back and be like, I love this is delusional, and it just sets you up for heartbreak. It sets you up for confusion, and it's just not the best way. So, number one, pick a trusted advisor and hit the gas and start picking things out. Um, Also, the idea of you're going to need team buy-in. So when you get ready to launch a new brand, whether it's changing your name or not, the idea that your team is going to be all hunky dory is also not realistic. You have to go in and get them excited. So as the owner, you've got to get your mindset correct that you are investing in this. This is a good strategy. You are going to act like this is the best thing that's ever happened to your company. You're going to believe it and you're going to speak on it in that way. If you go and say, guys, we're thinking about doing this mascot. I don't know. We're very up in the air. Well, that made no one feel comfortable to go home that night and think they feel solid
Right.
about their job, right? So, but if you come in and like, guys, we cannot wait to show you what we are about to be. We are ready to take this market by storm. So I want to introduce to you our new mascot, blah, whatever he is, she is, it is. And all of a sudden, people are like, okay, you got to speak with confidence. You have to have the mentality that you are in this for the long haul. You are invested in it and you believe it. If you don't believe in what you're doing, then don't do it yet. You're not ready yet. Because I have seen several people get all the way to the finish line and literally they're standing with their toes at the line and they just won't cross it. And other companies in their market are blowing past them and they're just frozen. They're paralysis by analysis,
Right.
and they're just frozen. And so, like, please get yourself there before you start the process. The other thing I would tell you is to trust the professionals. So, again, especially with the name, one thing that really hangs people up is, well, but my family name is so important. It is, unless your last name is something so ridiculous that it's not going to be searchable or memorable, right? So how can we make a play on it? How, can you be a little silly with it? Can you be a little serious with it? Like, how do we really make this work? But trusting people that do this every single day. So
Right.
people like Lemon Seed, we rebrand companies every single day. We're working on companies' brands and strategies and helping them move things that aren't working and are working. And so we know what works. I've been a part of something that worked, literally boots on the ground, a part of a company. And so trusting us in your decision making, a lot of times we will get them very, very close, but they just can't help but do it. And then I have some companies that are like, whatever y'all say, we're going to do it. And those are the ones that a lot of times get the fastest success. Don't put as many
Sure. They're
hurdles in
not
the
they're not
way.
getting in their own way at that point, right?
Right. And then we have a checklist of like the actual tangible things that you need to do, such as like start getting whoever's doing your social media, start getting those people prepared to launch your new look and feel. Same thing with your website. Are you
Hmm.
go ahead and get things scheduled with van wraps, looking at what vans you're going to get wrapped? Like all of those things are just a part of the process that you eat an elephant and a cookie the same way, one bite at a time. So you just approach it steps at a time until you're ready to launch. And it's not as scary as it sounds. It's much more about that mindset, the intentionality, and knowing that you're going to get the team on board and everybody's going to hit the ground running the day you release this. And using it to energize your business is really my favorite thing to see come to fruition.
From web designer to SEO company to social, all of your different vendors really need to be aligned around that, that new
Mm,
brand because you don't want to be half-assed, right? Or just half
no.
baked.
Yeah.
It doesn't, yeah,
No.
it's got to be synonymous or really, really in sync just across all the digital channels, your print, business card. I think that would be a really, really fun process to go through. And as a company and maybe really stressful too. But I
Yes.
can appreciate how you mentioned earlier the committee, right? And the big problem
Hmm.
with trying to develop a committee to do things. And that was where we found that we really got stuck when we were trying to work with private equity companies, is that
Mm,
all the decisions are committee based, right? You've got multiple decision
yeah.
makers. And what we found was that nothing ever got done. It got so mired in bureaucracy that nothing ever got accomplished. And so I think that's really, really great advice. Um, which I think is really a competitive edge for smaller, right, less than 100 truck outfits anyway, which is, stay nimble. That's what got you here in the first place. And when you take
Oh,
action, take massive action. Do it all right, do it 100%, and don't just do stopgaps, I think. So I
yeah.
really, really appreciated that. This is the Growth to Acquisition podcast. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask what percentage of your clients that come and do a rebrand are rebranding that because they intend to sell within the next 3 to 5 years after rebranding.
Sure. No, that's a great thought. So I was almost mentioned that earlier. One thing that we do in our discovery is like, tell me what your 5-year plan is. And, I've been a part of private equity. We just rebranded a private equity company, and we're continuing to help them rebrand all their new branches as they come in. All of those are exciting avenues. So I like to understand what your long term goal is. Is your long term goal to sell to your son? Is it to sell to your general
Mhm.
manager? Is it to sell to private equity? Is it to sell to another friend you have? I just like to understand it because I have a particular client right now that he knows that's what his strategy is in 5 years. He wants to do that. So everything that we are doing right now is to build up maintenance plans, to build up brand recognition. And so I have seen, though, private equity style companies come in and the first thing they do is cut a lot of the branding. And so, or a lot of
Mhm.
the what they're calling fluff. And I'm like, man, well, we look so good that you bought us. And so trust the process here. My
We've been that
first
fluff before, just so you know.
What is happening? The funniest
It's
thing
like
I will tell you
we
this.
got you to this place that you're ready to be acquired, and then the first thing that happens when private equity comes in is they
Yeah, we
fire
think
us.
you should start all the way over. This was not working. The
Yep.
funniest thing is, well, it wasn't funny. It was one of the most eye-opening moments. I had this really great contractor. He was less than $1 million when he started with me, but he was like, Crystal, I trust you. I don't know marketing. I trust you. I'm committing $100,000 to the year. So we started this like slowly but surely. We got his website better. He had actually used someone else to rebrand him. We actually kind of kicked that brand up even more. We kind of elevated it a little bit more, gave him a maintenance club name, and really built this identity around this red truck. It just happened to be this red truck. And we built this up for this guy. And he got to like $4.5 million and sold that thing and retired. And it was such a bittersweet moment because I saw the writing on the wall. Like they're going to come in and say, Lemon Seed, we no longer need your services. We think we're going to change everything that y'all did to grow. And I remember thinking they just cut everything that made them who they were. And so now I'm seeing a little bit of a shift with private equity and, acquisition teams that are coming in. They're actually now like thinking back, like, maybe I shouldn't cut so much of the branding pieces. And so, you're getting set up for sellers. Nothing wrong with that. Let's be intentional about what we build. You're not interested in selling and you're in this, you're 26 years old and you plan on doing this forever. You just want to get out of the field. How can we help you get there? It's all about a custom strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate that, and this has been really insightful for me, honestly. And when we're not, talking in a podcast, I'd love to see some of what you've done in terms of rebranding out there. What haven't I asked that our listeners really ought to know?
I think the one thing I always like to reiterate to people is marketing, the silver bullet that you're looking for is consistency and organization strategy. It's
Mm.
not one thing that's going to grow your business. It's the combination of all. It's the sum of everything that you're doing driving the needle forward. And so I encourage you, like, do you have an actual strategy to how you are using your marketing dollars? Are you being a good partner with your vendors? And is your brand solid enough to take you to the next level? If you don't have one or all of those things, your stool is wobbling, right? So
Mm.
Lemon Seed is strong at helping clients do that. We do it every day. And so even if it's not with a company like Lemon Seed, I encourage you to seek wise counsel here on getting some type of coaching or a team that can come alongside you because odds are contractors, you are just good operators. You're good guys, good women. You run good things. You want success for your technicians and your installers. You want to just be a good company. And you're not an expert marketer and you shouldn't have to be. So you really need to trust the professionals like Adam and his company and people like us that can all bring that story together and help you grow and stop looking for that one thing that's going to change your business. It's not. It's not one thing.
There
It's
is
not
no
there. It's
magic
the
bullet.
combination.
Yeah.
No. It's the combination of all. Consistency is the silver bullet. It's just about getting there and getting organized.
I love that. Well, Crystal, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you'd like to share, or do you feel like we've kind of covered it all?
My own podcast, From the Yellow Chair, we talk all about marketing for the trades.
Mhm.
And so, of course, we're the yellow chair because Lemon Seed, everything we do is on brand there. So, from the yellow chair, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And then, if you want to see some of our branding projects that we've already done, check us out at lemonseedmarketing.com. follow us on all of our social media channels at Lemon Seed Marketing, and you'll be able to see we love to talk about what we're doing and our successes. So go check us out, and friends and family talk free. So if you want to see if Lemon Seed is a good partner for yourself, just check us out on our website or email us at hello@lemonseedmarketing.com and say, I think I want to know what y'all do, and we're here for it. We'll chat.
Excellent. Well, fantastic. Thanks again, Crystal. This has just been wonderful. And again, I've been joined here by Crystal Williams from Lemon Seed Marketing. My name is Adam Loveridge. I'm with Jobcalls. This is the Home Services Marketing Growth to Acquisition podcast. And I look forward to catching you on the next one.